Oh, you got it. Okay. I'm gonna stop mine.
I really have no idea what we do for that.
I bet Sam.
Yeah, exactly. I'm trying to see. Yeah. That would be. What are you guys doing?
Okay, so now we got the official recording going. All right, we'll let our friends get their food and get settled here. I'm not gonna have this thing track me because I'll start.
Kind of hard to get rid of once you get it.
That's what I'm afraid of. Oh, it's not gonna turn off.
It follows you home.
Yeah, exactly. It's like behind my car.
Sorry.
Yeah, come on, join us.
Sorry to be late, it's the last day of the street.
Just in time.
Oh, no, that's fine. We ate first, took a nap, and then
Yes, when somebody called me at 4:45 saying, this isn't gonna pass testing. Because we accidentally deleted some stuff. That it needs to work. It was like the 2-sentence horror story you sent me today.
Do you want some of this? There's a fruit on, there's 2 doors down by the right front, and those and the sodas and some energy drinks, bottled water.
Anything for you?
Okay.
This is like Billy asked for something.
yeah, you want to get a drink? All right, so meat barbecue.
Gets the spots of
Yes, thumbs up.
anything. huh?
Eat.
You can tell Sam, at least he did a good job on that.
On the food.
Yeah.
What's hilarious is he's a vegetarian.
I know, it's like, I'm like telling him the order, I'm like, we can do this and this, and he's like, yeah, I'm a vegetarian, I'm like, what?
You know what's even funnier? It's on their menu. The vegetarian section is the drinks.
Yeah, they do that. But they got close.
We put the tofu and broccoli out there.
Yeah. Yeah. The mac and cheese is vegetarian, though, I think. You can tell it was a big hit. You know, it almost was open, almost. Won't eat that for lunch either. So, there's beers in there. Oh, is there? It's pretty, I'll do some beer in my closet in there. There is some 0% alcohol beer in there too.
Well, we found this.
I found it's a strange concept. It seems to be an unhard seltzer.
You're still wondering why?
Beer?
Okay, so we're getting into the same. That's okay. No, it's.
Got it?
Green.
All right, well, we will get started. Again, thank you, Tyler, for having me here. We are doing the second leg of the BBQ and DevOps tour. First leg was in Toronto. And then now we're on to Lansing. Next one will be in San Francisco. We got Nashville, Atlanta, Austin, and we'll probably throw a couple more out on there. So this is my selfish opportunity to travel the company, talk about some Atlassian stuff, and more importantly, check out the local barbecue scene. So what are we going to talk about today? So besides the barbecue, we're going to talk about some DevOps here, and talk about the DevOps journey, what developers have had to go through from the past 20 years or so, talk about Atlassian's Open DevOps. What does that look like? What does it mean? And then we're actually going to look at some demo of the actual DevOps application. So we'll look at Compass, Bitbucket. We're going to look at Jira software with the integration within the developer panel. So we can look at launch darkly feature flags. We can look at some SNCC code scanning that we can pull in there and have that as part of the whole DevOps thing. So then we'll look at some just some high level best practices on DevOps in particularly, and then any questions. And we've already hit the barbecue, but we can go back for the barbecue if we need to. So a little bit about me. My name is Ed Gaile. I work for Appfire. So we have about close to 200 apps within the Atlassian marketplace that we own. So I'm the senior sales solution architect. So what I get to do is kind of cool in that I get to take several of our apps and kind of structure them into actual solutions. So you may need an ITSM solution, or you may need to migrate your server to cloud, or you need to consolidate server instances into a data center, or you need a project and portfolio management or an agile solution. So I take those apps that we have and structure them into a package that our partners can deliver to their customers. So I've been in the Atlassian ecosphere for about 12 years, everything from user to admin to I've broken every application that they have and several of our apps. And then I've also been the Atlassian user community leader for Atlanta for the past 9 years. So just enjoying my ride with the Atlassian folks here. And if you don't know, I am also a professional pitmaster on the side. So I started out doing barbecue competitions that kind of snowballed into cooking for friends and family, which snowballed into other people wanting to cook. So we just have a small little barbecue business down in Atlanta, Georgia now, then bottle my sauces and pickles and go to markets and kind of do that on my side. So that's how I relax. Probably a very bad way to relax, but.
I was gonna say by working. When you're smoking, there's not much you can do except wait for the meat to.
It's the process.
So you get like a whole, what,
It's
8
the-
hours.
Yeah, it's the process, you know.
And you gotta tend to, what else you gonna do? You're tending to smoke. You can relax.
Exactly. Thank you. So DevOps, let's talk about what developers have had to deal with here lately. And I actually got this from a presentation that the product marketing manager for Atlassian had with some of the engineers. And I don't know if you guys have heard of Sven Peters. He's a DevOps advocate within Atlassian. And so they were talking about the developer journey where, but first of all, we had the cloud that came along and developers had to deal with that. Then we had containers that came along. And so now we had to deal with containers and packaging in those. And then now we have microservices. So now we're deploying microservices and doing that. And then we also have to look at the security and the vulnerability. So basically what that's saying is the developers' plates have continuously gotten fuller and more responsibility kind of thing. So Atlassian is trying to help alleviate a lot of that with their open DevOps toolchain. So what is Atlassian's open DevOps toolchain? So basically that is Atlassian's full end-to-end suite of applications that allow you to do your integration of your DevOps processes. So you can do it one of two ways. You can do it an all-in-one solution, which would be the Atlassian version here. So you can have your deployments, your discovery, your alerts and monitoring, everything within the Atlassian ecosphere and all their applications. So if that works for you, that's great. What it does, it gives you a consistent application and a unified view of your DevOps. The other way that you can use Atlassian's open DevOps is that you can also use it as a best of breed solution. So you don't have to use Atlassian's tools end to end. You can also use what you're already using. So are you already using Jenkins for deployments, or are you already using GitHub or GitLab instead of Bitbucket? Are you using anything for code validations like SNCC? Zephyr for testing purposes. So you can kind of pick and plug in to where you want to. So the best of breed lets your developers use what they're comfortable with, what they're used to using. So you don't have to force them to use anything that they're not already using. And that also still applies to your tool chain from your DevOps perspective. So what does that look like? So let's go and actually physically look at some of these products now. So I'm going to go into our cloud instance, and we're going to look at Compass, which is in beta. I don't know how many of you have started to bang around Compass at all, but that's kind of like your developer's dashboard. You can look at your components that you're working with. You can do what they call check ops. So you can check in on your development team. What's their health like? What's your DevOps health like? So it's going to be your dashboard for how's your development team and collaboration looking like. So we'll look at that. We'll look at Bitbucket with some SNCC integration in it, and we'll kind of look at how that ties into Jira with the developers panel. So, I'm just kind of giving you a higher level overview of Atlassian DevOps. Open DevOps is you can have the all-in-one approach, which has its pros and cons of using all Atlassian, and then you have your best of breed approach of using Atlassian in combination with some of your third-party applications for your developers. So let's go into our cloud. So what I'm going to look at first is, let's look at Compass. So again, Compass is going to be a dashboard that lets you look at your health of your DevOps teams, and you can pull in and you can import any of your components. Now your components can be anything in your source control repositories like Bitbucket components, applications, or it can actually be your specific Jira issues as well. So I have my components here. What I've imported in so far are from my Bitbucket. So I have my CMJ application. I have a time to SLA user interface. I have an SLA application. These are just different components that I pulled in from Bitbucket. But if I were to look at the import feature here, I can pull in anything from my Jira software, JSM, GitLab, GitHub, Bitbucket. So I can pull in components of anything that I want to look at and have on this dashboard here. And if I look at my dashboard, I can see my components here. If I click on this component, I can see that here comes my dashboard on my CMJ component, which is what I have pulled in from my Bitbucket, which is composed of an application and code. And I can see that, for my component readiness is 100%. I'm passing. My DevOps health, I'm at 70%. So my dashboard here is configurable. So this is what is the metrics that my dashboard for this component is composed of. So I'm looking at pull requests, cycle time, deployment frequency, deployment time, open pull requests, and build success rate. And then I can weight these accordingly. So if I want to make sure that my deploy frequency is more important than, say, my open pull requests, I can weight those differently. And to see that, we can go in here. Oops, sorry. Look at the scorecard details, and then I can edit the scorecard. Yep.
From the dashboard that you were showing earlier.
Yep.
Like 100% on what readiness. Is that from unit testing or just
That's from what I've defined as what my component readiness is, or what my DevOps health is. So if I look at my component readiness, I can see that here's what high level is what my component readiness score and weighting is. It has a team owner, it has a repository, and it has a description. Obviously not very big criteria for component readiness, but that's what you can update though. If I look at my DevOps health, I can see here is what my score composes of. It's, do I have open pull requests? Is my cycle time for my pull requests less than a specific time? We have a repository, we have a team owner, and then are my deployments greater than or equal to 1? So right now, I am not meeting that. So it's telling me now that, hey, you're not meeting what you've defined as your weighted score for your scorecard for your DevOps health. Now, again, we can totally change that, and that we can define, what's the criteria type? Is it a field? Or is it a metric? If it's a metric, what kind of metric? Build success rate, build time. So you can define what your DevOps health is for your specific company or component or organization or team even. So that lets you define that. So then you saw that I'm having the one issue with deployments. Dun, 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 dun. Yeah, so I'm not hitting that. So let me go over to Bitbucket here real quick. And I'm going to go to CMJ. I'm going to go to pipelines. Let me run the pipeline. Just run off the master. So in Bitbucket, I have this project. It's just going to go through, the pipeline is going to go through, and we're going to build it, and then we're going to deploy it, simulate a deployment here. Again, if you're not using Bitbucket, you can use Jenkins or Ansible or whatever you want for your CI/CD for your deployments. We got the testing done, and then it's ready to be deployed. I'm going to go to the deploy step. Again, this is part of the pipeline. And I'm going to hit deploy. And then we should be good. Okay. All right, so we get the deployment. And again, it was just my deployment is a bunch of Python codes that are just moving stuff around. So we should be able to go back here, hopefully, if we got the integration correctly. And now you can see I'm 100% because I just did a deployment, and one of my metrics was deployments greater than once a week. And I hadn't hit that yet. So now I hit that. Now my DevOps health is updated. So, that's, again, I don't know if you've had a chance to look at Compass yet, but it's pretty cool from the fact that you can set this up. You can also do your teams. So you can set up your different teams. And this is where I told you they have this concept of a checkops. So you can do a checkops on your developers, and you can say, hey, developers, how are you doing? I can run a checkops. And so we can see for the week of July 29th, we did okay, but we could start one for this week if we wanted to. And your developers can come in here and say, hey, what's my mood? What went well for this week? What could have gone better? So you can kind of get a continuous feedback from your developers on, are they doing okay? Are they getting what they need? Are they collaborating? Or, so you can kind of get this feel for it. So to make sure that your checkops is working out for your developers. And then we can just stack that on as far as you can look at the metrics from previous weeks and see if there's a trend for your developers. But again, this all plays into your health for your different parts of your DevOps process here. What else do we got for? I think that's the major pieces of Compass I wanted to show. You can pull in your Jira issues here as well. I don't have that set up here, but I can show you where we go to. If you go into a specific Jira project, you can associate right here. I don't have the link I should have that, but the link would let you come in here and associate a component so that CMJ app, this component here, I could associate with this specific issue within Jira software. So now I'm going to switch back to Bitbucket real quick and then come back to Jira software here. So I know I'm kind of going back and forth here, but I just wanted to show the SNCC security feature, the integration within SNCC. So SNCC, we just ran a vulnerability for this requirements text. So all good, no issues found. I also have SNCC up here where we can look at our projects and see what we have ran for this specific integration for this component. Oh, maybe I gotta. So do you guys, any of you use like a SNCC or a SonarQube or for code vulnerability scanning application?
We use Tenable here.
Okay, yep. There we go, same thing. So now, so in SNCC, you can pull up your scanning report. Again, we didn't have anything. Again, this is just Python code that I have going in here. You could have your jar codes or your WAR codes or your packaged applications that you would have within your repository that could be scanned as part of your source code repository. And then you can have this reflected in the integration right in here with the SNCC. But if we also go back and look at our project here, we can see our security containers that we have, and that's our Appfire CMJ app and Bitbucket that we just did for SNCC, and then it'll link those. Well, it'll link those when you set it up properly. But again, that's a security view within your project. If you go to a specific issue, that we can look at the developer panel on a specific issue. So we can look over here and then we can see, you know, from our Bitbucket and our source control, we can see branches created, commits created. We have pull requests, either open or closed in progress. We can also use launch darkly's feature flags. I don't know if you guys use that at all here at all, but you can flag certain bits of code that you want to release ahead of other pieces of code, or certain bits of functionality that you want to release, and you can tag those as a feature flag. And you can use launch darkly to look at those feature flags. Like search enablement here is just a little piece of the overall functionality of the search updates that we're going to be making here. And you can pull that up and launch darkly to show the feature flag. And again, you can look at your feature flags within launch darkly. So if you don't use feature flags, that's no big deal, but that integration is there within Jira software to allow you to pull those feature flags in and release them in a cadence within your overall DevOps release structure. And so, yeah, so again, we can see anything that we're doing in our source control. We go over here to this one. Same thing, our pull request is done, it's merged. We had one open and the other one. So again, you can kind of see how Atlassian is trying to bring in, from that open DevOps perspective, integrations to everything that you're using. So if you're using SNCC for, you know, your code validations, you can pull that in. Bitbucket is your source control, so you can pull in the commits and the pull request. You could use GitLab if you wanted to and pull that in instead of Bitbucket. So the whole premise is that you have this tool chain that you can use all of Atlassian, or you can just take out, you know, plug in what you're using here. So just wanted to show you an overall example of here's what it looks like if you're using it, and then how they integrate within that. So any questions so far on the... Has anybody tried the Compass app yet? It's in beta, so it hasn't been released totally
Yeah,
yet.
Sam and I were just talking about it 2 weeks ago.
Yeah,
We use a thing that doesn't do quite as much called Storybook, that does a very small chunk of
Yeah.
what Compass does. We haven't tapped into it quite yet.
okay. That'd be interesting to see if you guys try to check it out and if you use the DAW or how it goes for you. So,
Sure.
because again, I'm just barely scratching the surface of what we're doing here. And what Compass allows you to do. So, and what do you guys use for your source control here?
Not everyone here is Kale and A, so I can't speak for.
Oh,
everyone.
okay.
We use Kale.
GitHub, okay. That's right. All right, so let me just go back to presentation real quick. And just wanted to go over you. So the thought of getting your code testing and some of your testing processes involved with your development cycle, you'll hear this statement called shift left in DevOps. And by shift left means that normally you have your developers work on the code, they do their testing, they hand it off to a QA tester, they do their testing, and then either send it back or move it on. So the shift left is taking some of that QA testing and trying to shift it into the developers world so that they can handle some of that from automation perspective, so they can actually take care of that before it gets to that point. So it makes it a more of a autonomous or automation of that testing to get you through the cycle quicker kind of thing. So you'll hear shift left from that perspective. I wanted to talk just quickly on Agile and DevOps. So they actually kind of go hand in hand. A lot of people will have their Agile processes and they get to a certain point where the code or the application is released. And then that's it. They go back to their next sprint or their next feature or whatever, do that and repeat. So DevOps kind of takes that, but keeps going with it into the actual deployment and the maintenance and then the feedback of that. So it's like you have the Agile part gets you halfway through the DevOps cycle, and then you got to the deployment maintenance feedback loop that comes back in to help influence your next future releases here. So a lot of people sometimes try to separate those, but I'm more on the line of saying they're kind of more similar than they are not. And then if you can start the process of getting people thinking on the Agile processes and then getting those into the DevOps. So it's basically the collaboration point. So it's like the Agile shouldn't be just a demarcation line where we go, okay, you guys got it. Now I'm going to go back and start my new feature or sprint. It's more like, okay, you guys got it. How'd that go? Is it working okay? Can we, what do we need to help improve kind of thing? So it's getting that collaboration, getting out those silos of how those operate. And then just a couple of DevOps best practices. So focus on the culture of the DevOps. So again, it's more of it's a mindset that the whole organization needs to embrace, and that it shouldn't be a siloed developers, testers, project manager, operations, alerts and monitoring, everything. It's more of a get out of that siloed mentality, and it needs to be more of a collaborative mentality across all those teams, and then make sure that you can get that process, that feedback loop and integrated, and make sure that the collaboration is there to keep it improving at all times. Find your CI/CD flow. So again, the cadence of your releases. So, whatever your cadence is if it's weekly releases, bi-weekly releases, whatever it is, if you get in a good flow and releasing small bits of updates, it allows for faster iterations within your DevOps process. Automation. You're going to see automation in every step of the process. So like I said, with the automation on some of the initial testing, so that SNCC code testing can be automatically put into your source control where in your pipeline, where once you make a commit, the testing application can go through and do a validation, make sure there's no vulnerabilities and submit that report. So you have that piece of the puzzle automated. And I would just keep your deployment can be automated. It should be automated so you can have a repeatable process every time. So you don't make a mistake from a human perspective of deployments. So you have your deployments going to your specific servers and then the checkouts and then the testing afterwards. So anything that you can do automate in the DevOps realm, I would do it. I said the shift left in the DevSecOps. So again, that's that code vulnerability scanning, testing, making sure that we're kind of shifting that back over to the developers piece, and again, automated perspective, so that we can get that a more efficient flow from the developers into the next section of the DevOps process. Identify your right metrics and constantly monitor. So like we saw in Compass, you could define what your metrics are for your component and or your DevOps health. So is that build numbers? Is it reliability? Is it I just lost my mind. What we saw in Compass. Sorry, I have to go. There we go. These metrics here: pull request time, development, deployment frequency, deployment time, pull requests, open, build, success rate. So again, whichever those are important for your organization, just make sure that you get those tracked and those are on display that we can look at and measure. Dun, dun, dun. And then, like I said, leverage that feedback loop across the team. So get those silos, get rid of those silos, make sure that your developers, your project managers, your operations teams, your deployment teams, they're all in communication and collaboration, so we can get that nice, efficient DevOps loop process. So the story on this one is that the DevOps open tool chain, a lot of people, sometimes they just go in and they like, I'm going to buy this DevOps package or this tool because it looks cool and I'm going to use it, so a lot of people who start to do barbecuing say, I'm going to go get a Kamado style smoker because it looks cool. I want to use it. They end up never using it because it takes a lot of process. It takes, 20, 30 minutes to get up to temperature. They thought it was going to be easier. They got 2 kids and, a spouse, so they don't have time to do that. And then, so they can't utilize it. And so they'd never use it, kind of thing. So they probably should have done some evaluation of what they need, what they could use, and what makes sense within their situation. So the same thing within a company's culture, as far as DevOps goes. You don't want to just go and buy any specific tool set because it's cool and everyone else is doing it. It's more of, let's evaluate what we're doing within our company. How do our existing developers work? What's our current process? And what do we need to be able to right now maximize that process and make it more efficient, not just go buy the coolest thing, to get working. So, and the other thing is, when I first started out, I didn't know that much about barbecue, and you watch enough YouTubes, you get YouTube certified on anything, right? And so it's like, oh, I got this, you get one of these little pork tenderloins and this is going to be the best thing ever. And then I put on the smoker and then I put too much wood in the water and it made gray smoke, so it was like just gray smoke, and it's not good smoke. It was just gray smoke. And so, and this was my first time, obviously. So it's like, okay, well, I didn't do that correctly. And obviously we had to order pizza that night, but yeah. So the whole theme is that, the same thing with barbecue and DevOps, just kind of look at what you have, understand what you need, take the time to figure that out, and then go on your DevOps journey to make sure that you have the best tools for your process. And that was it. Any questions? Comments, thoughts?
I have a question.
Yeah.
So, Compass, is that something that your company started implementing already in their actual day-to-day?
So Appfire itself has not. We're looking at doing that, but yeah, again, like I said, Appfire is kind of a weird situation in that we've grown by acquiring companies. And so a lot of them still have their little silos that we're working on bringing into the overall, here's the product management group, and here's, your the overall product group, not your little, this app group. So as part of that process, we're looking at something like Compass to be able to pull that health check together from that perspective kind of thing. So that kind of was what spawned me to start checking it out and banging it around a little bit, at least so we can look at doing some test runs within our initial developer groups. I know I babbled up here for a little bit, but anything else? Any guys got any DevOps scoop stories, best practices, tips, tricks? Things not to do?
Oh, I have those stories.
Yeah, those are the best stories. Oh, absolutely.
What's it called?
Snick?
Snick, is that only for vulnerability or like just like a playground for?
Yeah, so it is a third-party application called Snick, but they are, so there's a couple, there's JFrog, there's Snick, there's I think Hawk Scanner. There's a couple of them that do code vulnerability scanning. And so what they do is they'll scan your code, and they can scan the code. They can also scan your package dependencies. So like if you have an old log4j import that's got a vulnerability, it'll say, hey, you got an old version of log4j in your code that you're importing in, that's a vulnerable thing. And so it'll be flagged that as a vulnerability that you can fix kind of thing. So but yeah, so Snick is just as a third-party application that lets you do that so that you can release code that is vulnerability free as it can be. I'm not sure you can ever get 100% vulnerability free. But again, it lets you come in here and you can set up your projects as far as what you're going to attach to and be scanned. So like in Bitbucket here, I had this guy set up here in your pipeline. I have this manually set up just to manually run every so often. But what I would do is probably come in here to into the pipeline code, and I would put a step into here before the deploy or after testing that says there's a Snick command that would say, scan these codes, scan this code right here. And then that would show up in your Snick security point right here. And then you can have that from an audit perspective to say, hey, we deployed this code, it was vulnerable free kind of thing. So. But again, that was the whole open DevOps, and that you can plug that in as part of any of the other third-party applications that you're using. So, Snick and JFrog, any of those can be plugged in. Sonar Cube is another one. What else you got? What other DevOps? And that's kind of considered DevSecOps, so Dev Security Ops, so security operations that are coming into that. I heard you guys talking a bunch of Agile stuff coming in here.
I'm a Scrum Master.
Okay, so are you guys involved within this process at all, or is this pretty much just you're in the Agile, getting it through the sprints, getting it released?
My organization barely does Agile, let alone this. I'm still trying to figure out what mine does. And it's still along the same line as yours. It's like, started off as one and they started acquiring this company and this company and this company and this company. I'm a business analyst, so I'm kind of like they were just happy that I understood the concept of how they could have multiple companies. This would be like, managed by, answered as, and all that
Yep.
other stuff. And I'm like, okay, I'm like, you get that. Yeah. So. Yeah, I'm pretty sure they're not even close to this.
Yeah, so it's funny because, when you see that. That's why I don't go into super detail on this one, because it's like, I don't know, agile is different for many people, whether that's good or bad.
What I find a little bit amusing here is looking at your diagram for DevOps. It more closely matches what I was doing when I was in training.
Mhm.
Because of course, one of the issues that we had when the place that we were working was we were switching over to Agile for training, and I'm like, except that we had to make some modifications because when you're doing training, you also have to continue to deliver it. It's not like you deploy it and that's it. You don't
Right.
have to touch it again. It's like you have to send your trainer out to deliver that class over and over and over again. And of course, you have to monitor the feedback that you're getting off of that class, see whether or not changes need to be implemented to the class.
Yep.
Are we getting rising or lowering attendance? So what I started out doing in Agile actually looks a lot closer to your diagram of DevOps than that diagram of Agile
I know.
was.
Yeah. And that's the complicated thing, is that a lot of people just get this one little thing of agile and it's, they get stuck with this little piece of it, but it's more the whole extended operation of getting that feedback. Like you said, that's how it's supposed to work, kind of thing. So that's why I like showing this slide, and that it says DevOps, but it actually could be agile, the full agile flow. You could just take DevOps out and just put agile there, but
We used a system called Llama, which stands for lot like Agile Management. The lady who designed it, she's like, well, they were doing Agile, right? And then all of her software friends, well, it's a lot like Agile. So she just called it Llama.
Llama, a lot like it. I like that. I like that.
I think we're mostly Agile for mine. Pretty sure. Maybe. Yeah, we'll just go with Agile. Yes.
A lot of people like agile. We're kind of agile, but we do. This team over here still does waterfall, but we.
Until we get feedback which says that we need to kind of go through and do the review and then.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, it's Agile.
It's kind of hard to say. It's like really, right? Because if you have a project manager, you're technically not agile.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But for the most part, having all the great tools is good for it.
Yeah. So, hopefully this at least gives you an idea of what kind of tools are out there from the Atlassian perspective for the whole the DevOps applications. And then you can just, hopefully bang them around, check out Compass, if you want to, see what you're using for any code vulnerabilities. If you are, maybe, you guys aren't using that yet. What are you using to deploy your code? Is it Bitbucket? Is it some other CI/CD engine kind of thing? And so how does that work? So. And then always make sure you get the barbecue. So
Most important.
that's right. That's right. So again, well, thank you guys for this. And again, I know it's a high level overview. I tread carefully in getting too deep into the technical details and integrations on some of this, just because a lot of people sometimes they don't understand what their full end-to-end DevOps is, but now they have enough information to go back to and ask questions if they want to. They can understand the different parts of the tool chain, and then now they can say, hey, how do we do this? Or so if they see these silos, and then they can start trying to help break down those silos and get the collaboration. And
Personally, like the you can do everything to question. All within Jira. You don't have to go to like
you don't have to, yeah.
Jenkins or figure something.
Yeah, so that was one of the benefits is it reduces that context switching between different applications, you know, you're all in Atlassian, so you can just stay there. It's gonna all be integrated. So it's all gonna be the same look and feel, no matter what you use. And that's a very big pro.
Yeah.
To that. But
I can see a big benefit for like, you know, if we have some BAs or testers that are ready to, you know, to start testing something and they don't know the interface for Jira, but they know how to get here and they
Yep.
just click deploy and they can start testing that's what they've done. That's.
yeah, so that's the whole gist of the open DevOps. Use it all in one or best of breed. Awesome.
Or you could just be my training team and run their entire agile operation umbrella.
Oh, that hurts.
You laugh, I did it.
It was in the budget.
It's in the budget.
Trello at all, it's kind of terrible.
Well, they took it away, remember?
I believe before that, you were some push pins on the wall, right? I saw it on the wall.
So how did you run that through Trello? You just had different columns for your different statuses in your agile.
It can be done. It can be done. I did an entire presentation on it, actually. Yes.
That's awesome.
Trello has a lot of hidden features that I think people don't realize are there.
Yeah,
And they make it a lot easier to do to run projects on than you would think.
I like the whole visual drag and drop and
Well, and
And-
what was helpful to me is, of course, I was running a training team full of women who were 50 and older. And they really didn't want to learn some complicated software to figure it out, whereas this was incredibly visual. They could just log it in, open it and see it. They could just drag things across. They could open it and do checklists. And it was intuitive for them
That's-
to use, which was nice.
yeah. Yeah, that's a great use case for Trello on that.
I have a lot of use cases for Trello. I like Trello.
Hey, if it works and you like it. Awesome. Well, unless you guys have any more questions, we got more barbecue for you.
Thank you.
Yeah, man.
Okay, so now we can ask you the important stuff, like, do you have a wood preference? Rubs,